What's going on, Falcon fans? This is Taylor Jefferson, Director of Marketing and Fan Engagement. I'm here with Kyle Edmond here. We're going to do something different, a little fun. It's draft week, so we're going to do a redraft from the 2010 NFL Draft. Some interesting stuff that happened that year, so we're just going to go through. We're going to interchange picks. We're going to do just the top 15, so we're not doing all 32 picks. Kyle, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think this is probably my first time on camera. So I'm one of the athletic communications interns in the athletic department right now, covering volleyball, hockey, and women's tennis. But really excited to get this opportunity. I still remember watching the 2010 draft. It was actually the first draft that I really enjoyed watching and got into. I remember wanting Eric Berry for the Browns in the first round.
Now's your chance. Now's your chance.
Yeah, we'll see if it works out again. Yeah, this was a really fun draft to watch. Watched it at my grandma's house, and excited to kind of see how it falls now that 10 years later, looking back at it.
The first pick was Sam Bradford. Tim Tebow was in the first round.
Yep.
Jimmy Clausen, Colt McCoy, all household names, all college quarterbacks that were dominant, but none of them panned out. I think that's my biggest takeaway is the quarterbacks.
I mean, of the four you just named, Colt McCoy was the last one picked, and he's the only one still in the league. Yeah. So it just kind of was a toss-up year for quarterbacks.
Well, we can get into it. We discussed earlier that you'd be getting the number one pick. So without further ado, what do you got for the Rams in this redraft?
Yeah. Obviously, as you said, they took Sam Bradford, and I pulled up their depth chart from this year heading into the draft. Mark Bulger was still on their roster. He was older, probably could have gone quarterback. I mean, looking back, Bradford was probably a smart pick.
Yeah.
But in 2020 hindsight, I think they go somewhere else now. A guy who's still in the league and still producing. I'm going to have him taking Ndamukong Suh.
Ndamukong Suh, not bad.
I think, defensive line today, you still see him go number one, even if there's a top quarterback prospect. You think Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney. Why not go with Ndamukong Suh and get at least 10 years of production on that in the interior of the defensive line? And if you think forward, saying they still get Aaron Donald, that'd be a nasty combo in the center.
I couldn't imagine that. Number two with the Lions. So I'm going to go with setting up Calvin Johnson and Antonio Brown.
Oof.
Two Hall of Fame wide receivers together. He has off-field issues. Yeah, he's difficult to deal with. But Antonio Brown, no one can deny how great Antonio Brown has been. It probably wouldn't happen. No one's going to pick him at a CMU this early, but hindsight is 20/20.
I don't know how a defense would even begin to game plan for that. That's a lethal combo.
I love it. Well, I'm glad he fell into my lap, so I'll take him.
So, again, I think I might go status quo here. The Buccaneers did take Gerald McCoy in this draft at this slot. McCoy and Suh are constantly compared to each other. That's just kind of what happens with the same position taken back to back. I think, we're going to stick with Gerald McCoy and really put a big guy in the middle of the line that can stop the run and, force some pressure.
Now, I could stick with Trent Williams, who's been to the Pro Bowl 7 times, no All-Pros. Or I can go with Maurkice Pouncey, who's an interior lineman. He's been to eight Pro Bowls and 2 All-Pros. I'm going to go with Pouncey. I like what Pouncey's doing. He's still dominating, and Trent Williams has had a dominant career as well. I don't know how much Pro Bowls actually matter when people can vote on them, but when you get All-Pro, that means something.
All right, Kansas City. This one, I put a lot of thought into this one when I was doing my research. As I said, as a Browns fan, I wanted Eric Berry out of this draft, and this is obviously where he goes in the draft. I think Eric Berry is still a great pick in this slot, but he's not the best safety in this class at all. This was a loaded secondary class.
Yeah.
And instead of going with Eric Berry on the strong side, I'm going to have him take a free safety. So still staying in the safety region, but going to the other side. Earl Thomas from Texas.
Earl Thomas.
And just like that, the Legion of Boom never was.
Earl Thomas. That's a solid choice. going into the Seattle Seahawks, they have 2 first-round picks in the top 15. They picked Russell Okung at this time. You said the Legion of Boom was done, but I'm going to have to disagree. Eric Berry, he's a new Legion of Boom, and I know you want him with the Browns, but I think Seahawks would be happy to have Eric Berry.
So this pick for the Browns was Joe Hayden, and at the time I was really, I was happy with it. Of course, like I said, I wanted Eric Berry, but Joe Hayden was a similar position in the secondary. Had a lot of great years for the Browns. Wished he could have stayed a little bit more healthy. I think that would have eased the transition. Probably, honestly, prolonged his time in a Browns uniform. Then he went to enemy lines and is now on the Steelers. So a little poor taste in where he ended up going, but that is the business. So I'm just going to completely avoid him. I don't want Joe at this point.
I love the rationale.
And I looked at the Browns depth chart from this year. The left side of the line was awesome. Yeah, Joe Thomas, Alex Mack in the center, I believe. And if it wasn't Mack, it was Hank Fraley, which he was still a great offensive lineman who was able to hold down the center position. So instead, I'm going to go to the other side of the offensive line and try to pick up a right tackle. At this point in the actual draft, 2 tackles had gone. For us, none have gone. But I'm still not going to take one of the ones that were already off the board. I'm going to go with Brian Bulaga.
Brian Bulaga, okay.
Pure right tackle, just held down the right side of the line for the Packers for the longest time. And I'm a true believer in if you're a left tackle, you're a left tackle. If you're a right tackle, you're a right tackle. I think it's very hard to flip them in the NFL. So I'm going to stick with the true blood right tackle.
I'm going to stick with the position that they drafted. They drafted Rolando McClain at inside linebacker. I'm going to go with Navarro Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
He was darn good for the 49ers, 4 All-Pros, which is ridiculous, 3 Pro Bowls, which goes to show you that Pro Bowls don't really matter if he's an All-Pro more than he's a Pro Bowler. Obviously, fans are not seeing what everyone else is seeing. He's a 3rd-round pick. So I'm going to have to go with Navarro Bowman.
Stick within the division with this pick.
Okay.
They're going to rob a team of probably a few Super Bowls. I'm going to have them take Rob Gronkowski.
No, I wanted him for the Jaguars. Oh, man. Yeah.
I can't name a tight end on the Buffalo Bills roster from that time. Sean Nelson rings a bell. They took him in the 4th round the year before. But again, like you said, knowing what we know now, you got to take Rob Gronkowski, I think.
I'm going to go down a little bit further and pick up Dez Bryant from Oklahoma State. So he went in the 1st round to the Cowboys later, but I don't think they could pass on. I know he's not in the league right now, but he was really good for a time being, one of the top 3 wide receivers probably in the league. And to pass on that, I think people were scared because of his off-field issues.
Yep.
But he was very productive. He did a great job for the Cowboys, and I think it's a great way to have Torrey Holt mentor him while he's coming into the league. So I'm going Dez Bryant, top 10 pick.
If you said they took Anthony Brown.
Anthony Davis.
I was close. Who I don't even have as a top 10 tackle out of this class.
Yeah.
I think they totally – I won't say they totally missed because it's hard to sometimes project offensive linemen. I think it's one of the harder positions to project to the NFL. But I'm going to go with Trent Williams. I know I had talked about left tackle, right tackle, but with Trent Williams falling this far, it's hard for them to pass on him. They've got Joe Staley on the left side who still has pretty much played up until this point at a high level. So now you get Trent Williams on that right side of the line. And who knows, maybe Alex Smith catches on with the 49ers earlier with an offensive line in front of him.
So I'm actually going to go to the defensive side of the ball. And it's not really a need, but you can't beat the production of Geno Atkins.
I agree.
I think Atkins is a great player, still is a pretty good player. So, Chargers, Geno Atkins.
So now we're to the Eagles. I have their top need as a free safety. They had Marlon Jackson as a backup, which I think would have been a serviceable starter. But it's hard to pass up on Cam Chancellor, I think, in hindsight.
Oh, the Legion of Boom! I was going to do it.
He fell to the 5th round. There's a lot of 5th round safeties in this draft that made it, but I think the Eagles take him here. It's hard to pass up on the career he's had.
Left tackles in need. I could go Russell Okung if I wanted to. But I'm just going to go with the best lineman available, and I'm just going to go with Mike Iupati. He's still really productive in the league, and he's had a great career. So I'm just going to stick with him, get him in front of that in front of the quarterback, and hopefully maybe Hasselbeck would last longer if he had some blocking.
Yeah. So the Giants actually they went with Jason Pierre-Paul, I believe, in this pick.
Yep.
And I think that is still a very serviceable option. But I don't want to make this pick because of what I said earlier, but I'm going to end up making it. I'm going to have him take Joe Hayden.
Joe Hayden.
If he falls past the Browns, given his draft profile coming out of the time, I don't think he would have fallen this far anyway in the actual draft. But 2020 hindsight, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
So, yeah, some of my top candidates that we did not draft in the top 15, I had Jason Pierre-Paul ranked 12th on mine. He was all-pro. He's won a Super Bowl. Jimmy Graham went in the 3rd round. He was a great tight end in the league. Sean Lee, another Cowboys middle linebacker. His only issue is he couldn't stay healthy, but he was great. Demaryius Thomas, wide receiver. Did you have any other big ones that didn't get drafted in the first 15?
Another wide receiver, I don't think he would have probably gone 15 just because of how loaded the class was, but Golden Tate, he's been another one that's been reliable. Everson Griffin, he's had a solid career. Brandon Graham, I'm just kind of going down my list here by position. Brandon Spikes had a shortened career.
Yeah, I remember.
He put up some production. And then Devin McCourty was another one that I thought was, top talent. And we talked about the secondary. The safeties were just loaded. We took Earl Thomas, Eric Berry, and Cam Chancellor. But, I mean, Morgan Burnett, TJ Ward, Rashad Jones, they're all still out there.
That's amazing.
And 2 of them went in the 5th round. I mean, it was such a hard class to project because they were all so good. So, yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Falcon fans. We'll see you for our next redraft. We appreciate it. Thanks so much, and go Falcons.
Go Falcons.